right, let us bring on our guest. I'm sorry I kept her waiting. Carrie Lukas, the Vice President of Policy and Economics at the independent Woman's Voice. Her work has appeared everywhere: Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, USA Today, and the thing that endears her to me more than anything else, she is the author of The Politically Incorrect Guide to Women, Sex, and Feminism, which I should have bound in leather and put on my shelf. You can find her on Twitter at Carrie Lukas, Carrielukas. Carrie, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on.
It's a pleasure. First of all, tell me what the Independent Women's Voice does exactly.
Well, we're an educational organization, and we try to represent what we consider mainstream American women. It's interesting hearing you talk about the list of issues that people care about. It's so important that people recognize that that's what women care about too. So often when you hear the average women's group, makes it sound as though women only care about reproduction or childcare issues, where we know that women are most concerned about things like the economy, getting our healthcare system right, national security, and so those are the where we spend our energies too.
So it's almost as if you're saying that women are people, almost like.
I know, controversial.
So let me ask you this. I was on Fox once on their morning show, and I said, I asked the question, why is NOW, the National Organization of Women, why is it a left-wing group? If it represents women, there are right-wing and left-wing women. Why has the left been able to co-opt the question of what's good for women?
Yeah, they've been so successful, and I don't know how we've allowed them to get away with it. I actually think that's something that conservatives should grapple with and say, we need to take this topic a lot more seriously. For so long, we've allowed the women's studies program to think of what happens kind of in our popular culture and on college campuses. Really left-leaning women have absolutely dominated and been able to control the conversation about women in public policy. And that's a real shame because you're right. Women, the last election, you often hear this idea that women vote overwhelmingly for Democrats. And while, yes, there's a wage gap, it was pretty small. It's nothing. It's not nearly as expansive as people would have you believe. It was four out of every 10 voters, female voters, voted for Trump in the last election. That still means Republicans have some work to do, but it still shows there's a lot of women out there who are open to that message. We'll be a lot more open to that message if Republicans focused on reaching out to women in ways that resonate with them.
Well, as a right winger, I have a lot of friends who are certifiably insane, and they are constantly sending me things about YouTube videos. Women can't do freedom. Women don't want freedom. They threw out the men who took care of them. Now they want the man, capital T, capital M, to take care of them. And nobody ever dares to ask this question. So I'm going to ask, is this a problem? I mean, women seem, as you say, they're not totally in the pocket of the Democrat Party, but the Democrats have been very successful in co-opting their issues. Is there something about women that just doesn't want to, that will not support the idea of being free and individualism?
I don't think it needs to be that way. It's interesting. I think I'm a libertarian type of girl. Clearly, what resonated with me when I was young was this idea of freedom and independence, and a lot of the messages that are considered more, that tend to attract more guys, worked with me. But I think what we're increasingly learning and what research shows is that a lot of women are open to the idea of conservative ideas of free markets and limited government when you talk to them about it in ways that make sense to them. Women we have some different concerns than men. Women are more likely to be taking care of kids. Women are more likely to face issues like poverty and be worried about healthcare access. But I think that what Republicans and what conservatives should feel good about is say, we have a great story to tell. We should be, I think that the reason why women should support conservatism is that we do a better job at giving opportunities for those in poverty. We have better solutions for making sure our healthcare system is there for people who need it, and our education system provides the skills that people, particularly those at the bottom, are going to need to get into the economy. But so often, I think when you talk about things like tax reform or Social Security or budgets, you be talking language that the guys that work with guys, things like we want 4% economic growth. Well, that's not going to convince many women, but talk about how it's going to help families and how it's going to make the system work better for people like them. We can win them over. We just have to be smart about it.
You know, I couldn't help. I wanted to cut that. Remember the video, "The Life of Julia," that the Obama administration put out? I wanted to bring a little bit of that in and play it, but you know, they've made it impossible to find. They've removed it as well. They should. It was an embarrassment. But just to remind people, it showed Obama advertising essentially that under Obama, women would be taken care of from cradle to grave. If your organization, if the Independent Women's Voice made a Life of Julia, what would it look like? What are you offering to women through freedom that that trumps what Obama was offering?
Yeah, you know, I think one of the conversations to begin with all the failures out there in the Life of Julia, because you're right, this idea that the government can take care of you every step of the way and provide this like wonderful childcare system that's going to help your kids, and then you can go to the public schools and you can get a loan and go. This whole idea that government's going to take care of you and support you. That's, you know, even if that is tempting to women, people should remember that like government does an awfully bad job at a lot of this. You know why you don't want government to run your child care system and private and pre-K schools? It's because they're not doing a very good job with the kids that they have from ages 5 to 12. You know, when we look at things like our healthcare system, you know, government makes a lot of big promises, but then, you know, if you're in Medicaid, a lot of people out there would be saying, you know, I still can't get a doctor's appointment. It's still not helping me get the care I need. So I think that first we need to remind people that, you know, government may promise to take care of you, but it does a really bad job at it. You know, it does a better job. If you look at the things that work in America and the ways we've made progress, it's in the private enterprise. It's through that market-based exchanges where things are getting better, where education and kind of information is becoming. You have better ways to educate your kids. It's not really, the public schools haven't been changing and improving, but there's a whole lot of other things that are. So I think we can kind of explain that those markets, there are these solutions. And then, you know, I'm not, I don't think that we should be out there saying that there's no role for a safety net, because I think there is. And I think we can make sure that the safety net is doing what it needs to do. And that's helping people who actually need it, instead of trying to put, you know, the vast majority of American on food stamps. You know, that's not good news. That's terrible news. And we shouldn't all want everybody to be on Medicaid. We should be trying to get people into a private health insurance system, which does much better. All studies show that private health insurance serves people better than places like Medicaid. That's why we want to reform Medicaid and get people off Medicaid so they have something better.
That's I agree, and I agree with you about the safety net. That it's not like we're trying to get rid of every possible aid that government can give. It's just we don't want them running people's lives, so you need as little of it as possible, basically. I know you're a nonpartisan organization. Independent Women's Voice is a nonpartisan organization, but you're looking now at a big change we've had. Obviously, this election has turned everything topsy-turvy. Are you hopeful? Are you feeling good about where we're going right now, or are you still kind of nervous?
Certainly we're feeling better. There's a lot of opportunities out there when it comes to something like healthcare reform. You know, it's very easy to be frustrated and to be thinking, oh, why can't we just get this repeal done? It seemed kind of incredible. But man, it's a much better conversation and a better problem to have than had we been sitting here with Hillary Clinton moving us further and further down the line towards a single payer system. So obviously I'm frustrated. I wish that the progress was faster. I hope that we can move on tax reform. You know, right now the Trump administration is talking about rolling back a whole lot of regulations and kind of behind the scenes undoing a lot of the damage that the Obama administration did in terms of making our labor markets less flexible. There was a lot of things that the Obama administration that was doing behind the scenes, which was really killing jobs and kind of making our workforce a lot less flexible. You know, that was terrible news for women. The energy policies that the Obama administration was putting together, you know, through executive fiat, that was terrible news for our economy. It was terrible news for family. And the Trump administration is succeeding in rolling some of that back. So yeah, I'm you know, there's a lot of frustrations, and I want our guys and anybody who believes in limited government, whether you consider yourself a Republican or a Democrat or somewhere in between, I think we need to do more and focus on that. But boy, it's a much better place than it could have been, you know?
You know, it is funny, just as we're having this conversation, I'm just reflecting on the fact that I almost never hear people who specifically represent women having conversations like this on TV. It's always about sex. It's always about reproductive rights. It's always about abortion and things like this. And it is, I can see why that seizes the news, why that colonizes the news. But it really is a shame because obviously, as we say, you know, women have a lot more concerns than just that, and just like everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a saying we always say at our organization that all issues are women's issues. And it really is unfair to make it sound as though it's frankly kind of, it's a little insulting and sexist
Just a little,
that
just a
folks
little
out there
bit, yeah.
yeah, when Nancy Pelosi comes out and says, "Oh, this is our agenda for women, and it's all about childcare." Well, you know what? Yeah, childcare is important to me. It's also important to my husband. But you know what's more? It's just as important to me. It's things like our tax policy and healthcare reform. It is. It's just funny how, and I think that the left can be really guilty of kind of trying to pigeonhole women as if that's all we care about.
Where can people find you and your organization?
Well, please come to the Independent Women's Voice at iwvoice.org online. We also have another organization, Independent Women's Forum, and there's lots of information up there at iwf.org. We're on Facebook, and come find us on Twitter, and we have a lot of information about all these topics. We really appreciate people stopping by.
Well, thanks for coming on, Carrie. It's been really nice talking to you. Really interesting. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Well, that is different, It is amazing when you think about it. It's amazing when you think about it how entirely the left has relegated women's issues to their bodies. I mean, it's kind of bizarre when you think about it that feminists must be like, they must just call the dumbest women in America and get them to be feminists. Like that. It's the only thing I can think of. I mean, I just do not see where any of the, it's funny, very quickly, when women wanted to enter the workforce, and they're talking way long ago, back in the 70s and 80s, that kind of opened up. People sort of, look, corporations don't care who they hire. Ultimately, they want more workers. They can pay people less. One of the reasons I think wages have stagnated is because the workforce has doubled or the potential workforce has doubled with the entry of women. But, I just think feminists have been utterly destructive. I do not think there is a good thing I can say about them, except where the circle of feminism intersects with the circle of individualism. That little sliver there, I think, is where feminism, I agree with it, because I think people should be able to do whatever they want, no matter what they are.